When you're sensitive, you don't always need the words. You feel what others feel, sometimes before they even know it themselves. You walk into a room and sense the energy shift. You hear what's not being said. You notice the little things because they matter to you. This is empathy. This is your gift, a quiet kind of knowing, a heart that leans in instead of away. And then there's your intuition, the truth that speaks through your gut, through goosebumps, through a whisper that says, that is right, this is wrong, this is yours. When you feel everything, your inner world becomes a universe. You absorb it all, the colors, the glances, the mood of the sky, and somewhere inside you it alchemizes into art. That's why you're drawn to beauty, to writing, to music, to movement, to design, to the things that speak when words fall short. You see the poetry in life where others see routine. You find meaning in melody. This is your gift. You create from feeling. You bring depth into the world just by being who you are. You notice the things that others miss, the tone beneath the words, the shift in the room's energy, the way the light changes when someone smiles. You are quite an observer, a gatherer of details, a witness to the in-between. This is your superpower, presence. Presence is your superpower. You live in the small moments, the warmth of the mug in your hands, the softness in someone's eyes, the pause between heartbeats. You don't just see life, you feel it, you honor it. And in doing so, you remind yourself to rest and to come back to now, to breathe, to notice, to be. You are never meant for surface level. Small talk drains you. Empty connections leave you aching. You want real, you want soul. You want the kind of conversation that lingers, the kind that makes you feel seen. You show up with your whole heart, not halfway. And when someone earns your trust, you love them with depth, with loyalty, with a kind of presence that says, I'm here, I always will be. You're not for everyone, but for the ones who get you, you're everything. They may have told you to toughen up, to grow thicker skin, to feel less. But here's the truth. Your sensitivity is not a weakness, it's a strength. It takes courage to feel this much and still stay open, to break and choose softness again, to walk through the world with a heart exposed and call it living. You weren't made to be hardened, you were made to be whole. And your softness, it's not fragile, it's resilience. You're too emotional, they say, but what they really mean was you feel deeply, you express what others bury, you cry when it matters, you care when it's easier not to. They mistake your expression for instability, but feeling isn't losing control, it's being in touch. Big difference. You're not too much, you're just not numb. And in the world that tells us to harden, you choose to stay open. That's not a flaw, that's a kind of brilliance. You take things too personally, they say, but they don't see what you see. They don't feel what you feel. You notice tone. You hear what's left unsaid. You feel the shift in energy before anyone else does. So yes, it might hit you harder, but that doesn't mean you're overreacting. It means you're tuned in. You're tuned in to nuances, to undercurrents, the truth. You're not too sensitive, you're just aware in a world that often forgets to be. You're weak, they say, but they don't understand what it takes to stay soft in a world that tells you to shut down, to care when it's easier not to show up with gentleness when the world rewards armor. Sensitivity is not weakness, it's courage. It's strength in its most honest form, the kind that listens, the kind that holds space, the kind that refuses to harden. You're so dramatic, they say, but here's the truth. You're not performing, you're not just hiding. You feel things deeply and you show it. When you're moved, you cry. When you're joyful, you glow. You don't numb, you don't filter, you live fully. That's not drama, that's authenticity, that's being alive. You overthink everything, they say, but what they really call overthinking is really just deep thinking. You reflect, you wonder, and you care about the why, the how and what if. You don't rush past things, you sit with them, you hold space for complexity. You want to understand, not just react. That's not a flaw, that's your wisdom at work. That's emotional intelligence. You can't handle criticism, they say, but that's not true. You hear everything, sometimes more than what's actually said. You take it in, you turn it over, you hold it up to the light from every angle. It's not that you're defensive, it's that you care, you're processing. Because feedback to you isn't just a passing comment, it's a weight you carry, a truth you want to understand. You're not fragile, you're thoughtful, and maybe that sensitivity just means you take growth seriously. You're needy, they say, but what you really are is human. You crave depth, not attention. You long for closeness, not control. You don't want to be rescued, you want to be understood, held in the kind of connection where presence is mutual and emotions are safe. That's not clinginess, that's clarity. That's knowing your heart and honoring what it needs. You're not asking for too much, you're asking for what's real. You're always anxious, they say, but what they're really seeing might just be your sensitivity. You feel everything. You absorb the noise, the moods, the tension in the air. And in chaotic spaces, your nervous system gets loud. That's not weakness, it's wiring. Sensitivity is a trait, anxiety is a state, and though they sometimes overlap, they are not the same. You're not broken, you're tuned in, and in the right environment, your sensitivity doesn't flare, it flourishes. You make things a big deal, they say, but maybe it is a big deal. Maybe you're not over it. You make things a big deal, they say, but maybe it is a big deal. Maybe you're not overreacting. Maybe you're just still feeling. You notice the shift in tone. You hear what others brush off. You respond to what others You make things a big deal, they say, but maybe it is a big deal. Maybe you're not overreacting. Maybe you just live. Maybe you're just still feeling. You notice the shift in tone. You hear what others brush off. You respond to what others ignore. That's not drama, that's discernment. That's not drama, that's discernment. You haven't gone numb, you still care. And in a world that learns to scroll past, you choose to pause, to name what matters, to feel what's real. You're not making it a big deal. You're just refusing to pretend it's small. You're too sensitive, they say. Ah, yes. The classic deflection. Usually say to silence you, to avoid discomfort, to dodge accountability. But your sensitivity, it isn't the problem, it's the mirror. It reflects what others don't want to see. It reveals what they have learned to ignore. It brings truth into the room, even if it's quiet, even if it stings. And maybe in the exact moment, your sensitivity wasn't too much. Maybe it was exactly what was needed. You are allowed to feel everything and still be strong. You are not too much. Your sensitivity is your superpower. You're deeply intuitive, and your inner knowing is wise. You are safe to set boundaries that honor your heart. You are a magnet when you show up as your whole self. You are loved even when you're quiet. You are allowed to rest, retreat, and rise when you're ready. You are resilient. Softness does not mean weakness. You're seen even when the world feels loud.